Welcome to the Hunt Test Hobo Podcast, your place for truckside chats and insights into the retriever game. Whether you're just getting started or you're a seasoned handler, this podcast is another resource for tips, tricks, and insights from both the amateurs and professional trainers' perspectives. Each week, we'll dive into the nitty-gritty of retriever training, sharing stories of success, overcoming challenges, and forging stronger bonds with our dogs. This is the Hunt Test Hobo Podcast. I'm Chris Rudd, your host, fellow retriever enthusiast, and student of the game. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of the Hunt Test Hobo Podcast. Today I'm with the legend. That's what I'm
We can't start like that.
You are the legend, though. Steve Earick. Is it Misty Morning Kennels still?
Misty Morning Retrievers.
Misty Morning Retrievers.
Yep.
Where did that come from?
From my father. His first dog that would retrieve for him was a golden retriever, Misty Morning Molly, and he got the name from and I'm sure there's people out there that are going to know exactly what the book has in it. I think it's a compilation of duck hunting short stories.
Okay.
Called Misty Mornings and Moonless Nights.
Sounds
And he always liked that.
Nice.
So, and I stole that from him. Yeah.
Well, you've been doing dogs for quite a while.
Yes.
Do you have any idea?
Late 90s.
Late 90s?
I got my first lab 96. I think he was born.
Okay.
Yeah, Bear.
Trying to do some math in my head.
How many labs were named Bear?
Not that many, right?
Yeah. That's what I thought.
That's like I named my daughter Emma, and I thought it was pretty original. My grandmother's name was Emma.
Right.
And then
it's old school.
I thought it was pretty old school. I thought it was pretty cool. And then we went to our first day of like preschool or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, I have two Emmas in my class." And then I Googled it, and it's like it's making a comeback, and it's like one of the most famous girl names. And I was like, well, I guess that is what it is.
My niece's name Emma. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So tell me a little bit about, how you got started in dogs.
We always duck hunted and with my dad, and he was ate up with it. And I was for a while, and then I was, Jane and I got married. I went to college and stuff, and, we'd go to the same island, set up the same 36 decoys, and miss the same 4 ducks every weekend. And well, you go because with your dad and my brother would go, and and then
the same 4 ducks.
I was getting pretty burnt out on. I mean, in Central Ohio, it's not like a duck mecca, but we went up. Like I said, my dad's ate up with it. He took us, or wanted us to go to a waterfowl festival up McGee Marsh, up around Lake Erie. And we went up there, and one of the local clubs. I don't really remember because it was before I knew people, but I think it was probably the Lake Erie Club, which is now not together. And you could pay $5, and they would throw a couple singles for your dog with real ducks, and your dog go out there and pick it up. Well, for whatever reason, I don't remember, the dog wouldn't go get one of them. And so a guy in the club went back to his truck, got his dog out of the crate, and come up and said whatever he said. Dead bird, back, tweet over, picked up the duck. And I'm like, dang, I want a dog to do that, And, and from there, it just, I started looking for a dog, and found one, got Bear, and I was ate up with it. I got to, just started researching. Of course, back then, late 90s, you buy the Lardy videos, and I followed that. So I was doing white coat stuff and never ran any field trials or anything. And I started hearing about Hunt Test, and I called up somebody.
So you started training with Lardy videos before you ever even saw Hunt Test?
Yeah, that was the first book I ever read was Robert Milner book. And I think that was a lot of stuff in that. I got a lot of things I still do in that. My steady drill comes from Robert Milner. But that, which is a lot different than Lardy, style of training. And then I did a lot of stuff, the way Lardy did, in the videos. And I think I called somebody from that club up there at Lake Erie, and they said, well, there's a hunt test. I told them where I was from. There's a hunt test down your way, and it was West Central Ohio. And so my parents and Jane and I went to that, took our dog, and I called up that club and signed up, and kind of talked about the 3 different levels, started, seasoned, and finished, and decided to run my dog in seasoned. And he passed, he did good, and at that point I was hooked. So I think I went to another weekend and he failed one, which I have no idea, I don't remember why. So then I ended up driving all the way out to be Tri-State when they used to run at Peabody coal mines, and I'd run out there, took my tent, and was kind of a hobo out there myself. You were the original hobo. There you go, man.
Now I know where I get it from.
Used to do that a lot, and because I had to get that season title before the end of the season, so it was a fall hunt. But from that, I got hooked up from those guys at West Central Ohio, Jim Manson, Bruce Shoup, Ed Ruff. I used to drive down there. It was about a little over an hour to go down and train with those guys. And I go down there and train, a couple times a week at least.
What were you doing as your day job at that point?
I worked in a automotive glass assembly plant.
Okay.
And I liked that job. It was that was kind of my thing, man. You pick a glass up, put it in a press, put it in a cart, man. Do that for 8 hours.
Just like training dogs.
Exactly. But I did it for 20 years, and then was fortunate enough. My wife graduated from college. She went directly out of high school to college, and then didn't finish. And then she went and spent 10 years getting her degree from Ohio State. And at that point, she did real well on that, and kind of got a job offer from Toyota, which was in Erlangen, Kentucky. And when she did that, she's like, well, this would be a good time. And I had taken in 4 or 5 dogs, maybe just like in the side, and force fetched them and things like that. Plus, I trained, my 2 dogs and my dad's dog and my mom's dog. So I'd train less than 10 dogs. Mm-hmm. And I hung my sign, man, Misty Moore Retrievers.
I remember because when I was looking at Scratch, I don't know if I've told you this story, but how I even found the breeding for winter. I've said this on the podcast, but I don't know if you've heard this, is that, I already had a puppy out of Mason. And I went through and I was looking at the grand entries for that year.
Right.
And I was like, who's got the most passes? Well, I already had a dog out of Mason. So I went to the next one, and it was Scratch. And I got on Facebook, and I found your face, and I found you. And
that didn't deter you, huh?
No, it didn't deter me. But I remember the picture at the time was really old. It almost looked like it was like a Polaroid type of picture on there. And I was like, I wonder if this guy will even message me back, And I don't know if I actually ever did message me back on Facebook, but
probably not.
But I found, I found that Jeremy had tagged you in a post, and that's how I found the second litter, because Winter was the third. And that's how I found the litter. But I remember then trying to dig in and who is this Scratch dog?
Right.
And then I found your property. Right. Well, I don't know if it's not where you guys live now, right?
No, we've been back to Ohio. That was in Southeast Indiana.
Okay. Yeah. So, but that property looked amazing. So what's the story on that property? How'd you end up with that?
Well, when she got that job, it was in Erlangen, Kentucky, and we, so she was working in Kentucky. We assumed we was going to live in Kentucky, and we went and looked for property a couple of different times with realtors and stuff in Kentucky, and it was either too hilly, too woody, the property we could afford, or the stuff that would work for training dogs was too expensive, or not enough of it, or not. And for whatever reason, I don't remember how or why, we started looking in Indiana, and came across that piece of property. And we actually went in and looked at it and didn't really care for it, and then went back and looked at it again when we was getting more desperate, because we hadn't had a year to be moved into a house for her relocation. And man, when we started picturing water on it,
so it didn't have any water.
No, it was just cornfields.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was cornfield. We built the house and put in the 2 ponds, and
Probably took some imagination to like. What was that process like for building your own pond? Man, I can't even imagine.
we'd never, we'd never done anything like that before. And actually, the first pond was the one up by the house, and the dam had to be so big. I mean, it was really hard. You had to push a lot of dirt to get points, and so it was not that great of a tech pond. It had 3 points and one big round dam. And I used to go. So the dam was just one big round, and probably if you measure from here and walked around, it was 120 yards, 150 yards. I used to run shoreline blinds on it. And so you kick them off, and then you just keep walking, and the dog keeps going. You just keep them off the shore and bend right around, right, till they get to the end. And you just keep them 6 feet off the shore, but just use your imagination. And then we put in the other pond. The other pond is we call it a wetlands. It wasn't very deep, or isn't very deep. And I force fetched 2 dogs, 2 puppies for this guy, and I gave him my old Tritronics releases, the old ones that were like boxes. I think I gave him 3 of those and a transmitter, and he dug it with a bobcat. True story, man. John.
How long did that take him with the bobcat?
2 weeks, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
It seems like it'd take longer.
Yeah, I mean, he's out there on that bobcat while I was in there pinching his dog's ears, man. Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
And that's, I tell you that we have a 2-acre pond now, and I love it, but it's that little wetlands there, which was 3/4 of an acre maybe, is one of the best ponds I've ever trained on.
Yeah.
And like everything I do, when we was designing it, he was out there on a bobcat, and I'd be like, yeah, put a little more there. Yeah, let's do. There was no drawing it out on a map.
You didn't even draw it out at all.
No, it just kind of came together. That's how I trained too.
Yeah, I mean, I did the spring grind with you guys, and man, that was one of the best times. Like, because I didn't know anybody.
Right.
Like, I mean,
get into a new group of guys.
And man, it was so much fun to hang out with you guys.
It's a good group, yeah.
And I just remember you and Scratch cruising around on your on the 4-wheeler, just riding around looking at stuff. You'd drive 10 yards, you'd stop, look around. Nope, not here. Drive another 10 yards, look around. Not here. It seemed that we ended up at the same pond every time.
Yeah. Well, Scratch liked it, man. So I think I could be wrong. I think that was his last grand. I think, man.
Yeah, I think
so.
It was his last grand because I remember when he didn't pass.
Yeah.
But it was tough.
Yeah, I knew it was gonna be hard. We was doing that water test, I think, in the second series. Yeah, second series, and it was like just a plain pond, and they had one, up on that hill. I don't know if you was in it. Was you in a flight? I don't think so.
No, I wasn't in any flight. No,
I on the hill, and then one out in front, and then one just kind of over your shoulder here, and we shot one on the hill, and I try to point him this way, and he rotates the other way. And the only thing back there was a gallery, and he's looking like, man, I don't know. He might be about ready to be done with this. He don't follow the gun, but.
Well, tell me a little bit about Scratch's story. What dog do you feel like kind of had the most success with? Was it Scratch?
Oh, Scratch, no doubt. I mean, Scratch is just, I've had a lot of great dogs, some that I've owned and some that, my first really good dog was Big Kate. And she was just I wish I'd have her now, have another chance with her, but she was phenomenal dog. I mean, rock steady and all that. But that was from them Robert Milner book that I read. But Scratch, he's just a team player, always wanted to do the right thing. I remember a couple of times I'd get on him and I'd always feel guilty because just have the way he'd look at you that, I was like, man, just, explain a little better and I'd do it. But, and people get dogs like that, but just really, really fortunate that I had him. And I got him because a good friend of ours, in fact, one of my very first clients, Lonnie Burns. Oh
yeah, I forgot Lonnie bred Scratch.
Yeah, he had his dog Wake that I trained and helped Lonnie, I should say it like that. I started her and then he would, because he's an avid trainer and And I get her and go run her and test and the grand and things like that. I just absolutely love that dog. And, she was bred good, but not great. And then when he decided to breed to Grady, I was like, yeah, I'd like to have one of those. And sure enough, I let Lonnie pick me one out.
Yep.
That was Scratch.
Yeah, I took a lot of inspiration from that breeding because I saw that breeding and Lonnie was repeating it with his dog, or not repeating it, but he was doing it with his dog Sassy, and Fox. And I saw that breeding. I said, I don't know what it is, but that just screams to me like Scratch's breeding.
Yeah.
It was a grand dog to, an NFC. I was like, that might be the next one. And so I bought that dog, and now I can't hear, but that was my inspiration.
Right.
Looking at Scratch, and he actually is doing now breeding Sassy to Grady, and I'm second pick male because I'm like, I'm gonna try again. Try number 2.
Try that. It's funny because like Scratch, Wake was a big. I mean, she looked like a male, big, but she had a beautiful head on her. And she's the kind of dog you walk up to the line, sit on the bucket, she put her head. I mean, you're getting ready to run a test, she put her head on your lap, and I mean, she's just a real personable dog. I mean, she and when it came out, when Scratch was growing up, he's just big leggy dog. I never liked dogs like that. I like more of the classic, smaller, shorter dogs, but muscular, but American style. But man, not anymore. I like them long leggy ones.
Ones that take a little bit more time to do what they need to do.
Right.
Give you a little more time to think.
I remember going to the first grand I think I ran him in, and I got him out and showed Bill Autry. I was like, Bill, finally got a dog that's like Cody, because he had Cody that was about the same, and from my memory, about the same. His pictures that he always had advertised in HRC magazine, I thought Scratch reminded me of Cody. Yeah. And Bill was like, that's my kind of dog.
Was Cody the one that got like 13 passes?
He had, I don't remember what it was. That's the one that dude beat. So it was either 14 or 13, maybe.
13,
I don't
think
remember.
It was 13 got, or was Cody had 13, then dude had 15, and now Mason's got 16.
Right. Yeah, that's probably right. And he had that forever. I mean, he had it. The very first grand I ran, I was in the same flight. Of course, they only had 2 flights, but I was with Mr. Bill and that. Yeah, just awesome guy.
Yeah. So okay, so but you didn't act like you sold Scratch or something happened. Like, wasn't there like you got him back? Because you didn't say Scratch as his name, right?
Axe. His name was Axe, and I always just sent him on Axe.
Okay.
But yeah, I changed it to Scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's more memorable than Axe.
Yeah, I like Scratch.
Did he scratch a lot, or what was it that you said Scratch?
I scratched him a lot.
Oh, you scratched him?
Yeah, he made me scratch him a lot.
Yeah. And then now the dog that you have out of that winter breeding is Flea.
Flea. Well, of course, you got a dog named Scratch, you got to have a dog named Flea, right?
Yeah, I mean, that litter has turned out to be pretty.
That's a good breeding.
Pretty crazy, right? I mean,
yeah.
You got Winter, Granger.
Yeah, Piper, just an amazing dog. And she came out of our dog, Cozy Kate. Which was out of patent, and I never had a patent dog. Or what was his litter mate's name? It was Patton, and the other one, I can't ever remember his name. But anyways, they were always great, just real people dogs, and I really, really like. We would have clients come over. You train a dog, you get them handling, and you got to teach the handlers or the owners. And it was always Cozy Kate that would.
That was your dog.
Yeah, they'd run her, and anybody could run her. She was an awesome dog, man. Kind of had some weird ears, but other than that.
What was it about her ears that were weird?
When she was looking normal, she was beautiful. And then she'd get something weird look in her face, and they'd kind of peel up
a little bit.
Yeah, they look like.
Sometimes Winter does it every once in a while with one ear. She'll be like looking at you, and you're like,
yeah.
And just like,
it looked like a German Shepherd ear or something.
Yeah, exactly. Did Piper have a little bit of that look too?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. Winter doesn't
We tried to breed that out, but.
Yeah. Well, it hasn't hasn't made it past winter, I don't think. Like from that
I
side.
think maybe that because scratch. I remember when I was talking to Lonnie about what I wanted. It was for pick. I said I want a black male with the biggest ears.
The biggest ears.
Scratch.
Well, you should see. I mean, you haven't seen any of the winter stroker puppies, but man, they got elephant ears.
There you go. They're gonna be good dogs. Promise you.
Make sure you tell Clark that.
There you go.
But it's funny looking at Fang. His face looks just like Winter, but then everything else is big stroker dude look like big old elephant ears. And anyway, I think he's good looking.
Yeah, cool.
I love the whole pedigrees and stuff. And so you guys kind of have like a little Midwestern, like between you and Jeremy and Eric, you guys have like a nice like little like
we
producer,
have a good group,
big group, and the dogs that you guys are producing are really nice. I mean, you haven't done a litter in a while though, probably.
No, I haven't. I kind of got to where after our dog Poppy. Well, I don't know. I mean, even Bear and Manny, I had dog Manny that was, man, I can't really say that he's my favorite dog because of scratch, but pretty close. I really just like the males, So, we kind of ended up with Kate. We didn't set out to get a female. We just kind of ended up with her. And then I've just kind of like the male. So obviously we don't have litters. So
yeah. Well, I mean, you
puppies always make me nervous.
What'd you say?
Puppies always made me nervous. I don't like puppies.
Well, that's one thing that we're a little different on. I love them.
Yeah.
Tell me. So I was going to ask you the. Excuse me. Do you think that there's a major difference between male and female?
I bet I've had better luck over the years with females. Is there a major difference? I don't think so, man. I remember my dad's dog Dory was one of the first dogs I ever trained. And I won't mention any names, but there was a guy in our town, a good friend of mine. He's actually my neighbor growing up. And he had a really nice male, but trained by him. And Dory she was a grand champion and stuff at that point. I'd run her in a couple of those SRSs and stuff. He was always like, yeah, she's a nice dog, but, I like them big, powerful males are faster and blah, blah. I was like, I'll bet you whatever you want to bet. We'll put a bumper out there at 100 yards. You throw it for your dog. I don't remember his dog's name. You throw it for your dog, and we'll time you how long, and I'll run it as a blind, and we'll time her and see who wins. I'll bet you whatever you want to bet. He never took me up on it. She was a badass, man. But there's a lot of great females. Like I said, Kate. Yeah. Cozy Kate was never very athletic, but I just kind of fell in love with the males. And now I got Flea, and my next dog would be a male.
Yeah. Very cool.
Nothing against you all's females.
Man, I've been trying to have success with males, and it just hasn't worked out for me yet.
They definitely can be different, man.
What do you think makes them different?
I don't know. Smarter trainer answer that for you.
Well, the nice thing is they don't come into heat.
Well, yeah.
That's a nice part.
That's true.
That's a nice part of it.
I don't know. I just I don't think they're as easy to train, but I think when they get it, they get it. Yeah, they get it.
I think I bought more males than I have females.
Really?
I just don't end up. I don't know, for whatever reason.
Just don't work out.
It hasn't worked out for me yet.
Yeah.
But yeah. So one of the other things that I think is really cool is that well, first of all, let's back up. So you've ran the Grand for quite a while. How quickly from being working in the glass factory to dog training did you start running the Grand?
Well, I got my first dog. I mean, when I first ran that first HRC test, and you become a member of HRC, it starts sending you the magazine. I mean, I don't know how people are these days with phones and everything, but I'd read that magazine cover, and look at all the ads, Bill Autry's ads, and the other ones that just had the pictures of dogs, and see the the different guys that was running, and then they'd have a grand and they'd put diagrams of it in there, and I'd look at that and try to replicate that in training. That's all I wanted to do. So first, when I first was able to, which was in 2001, I don't remember how old it was. My dad's dog Dory. My first dog Bear, I'd forgot about obedience with him, so he wasn't very good at the line. He was pretty good on marks and blinds, but sitting at the bucket was not very good. So we worked real hard with Dory on that. And 2001, the fall of 2001, right after 9/11, went down and ran in Mississippi and made it to the 4 Series. And back then, you wasn't sure. They did callbacks every night. You wasn't sure if you was in or out till they called back. And I thought I was in. I thought she'd done pretty good. Now looking back, I knew that, knew now why they put her out. But so we went and trained for Upland and all that. Of course, it was a heartbreak when it didn't. But that just made me more determined to go back. So I went and ran the spring of 2002. I think someone might correct me on the dates. The spring of 2002, I think, was in Canada in July. It was brutally hot. It was like around Canada Day. Went up there, met some great people, met Chuck McCall and Ronnie Anderson and Sean Arney and just, Brian Check. I think Bruce Shoup, I was friends with him. I think he judged that grand. But anyways, I ran. I haven't missed very many grands since then. I had a job. I didn't run them all, but I ran as many as I could. And finally, I passed my one. Was my 3rd grand.
Took 3 to get done.
Yeah, it was in Memphis.
Much of that felt
good. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. And and even like, so I get to the Upland, and I got a gun safety warning because I didn't have an Upland vest, so I had to borrow one.
Okay.
Same story, and those guys that train with me now that if I could just get through the 2nd series, I'm like, shut the hell up, man. Plan on making it all the way or don't go, And if you don't, okay, you try harder. But I was one of those guys. And I got my gun hung up and I got a gun safety warning. And Paul Ramponi come up to him. He and I was just talking about this today or yesterday. And I got a gun safety warning. And he said, have you had any other warnings throughout the grand? But no, I don't think so. And then I started thinking about it. In the 1st series, I had something go on with the diversion or something. And they never warned me. It wasn't a gun safety warning, but it just had me thinking. And of course, Jane was there with me, and so you get done running up, and they don't come up and shake your hand like they did.
They do now.
Before.
That's a good handshake.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no doubt. Or maybe they did, but that gun safety warning was looming over me. But when they finally read off her number, we was hooting and hollering, and that's the best. I'm passing the grand next to family and having kids and getting married is the best thing I've ever done. Yep. So
it's something that if you haven't experienced it, it's hard to describe. And I'm trying to tell people why, and I think it's because the margin for error is so tight, and at any given point your dog can do something
right
that you don't expect or know. It's so interesting because like the longer I do this, the more I'm like, man, I have no idea what's gonna happen because I think I'm gonna know. Like this setup today, we're running an SRS here at Abbey Farms. This place is beautiful. You get to train here often?
Not that. I've been here, I think, once this year. I came here and trained once before the grand. I'm going to be back, especially since he had it on the pond. I'd like to come and just hang out with Joe.
How far is it?
It's 2.5 hours.
Oh, I thought you were closer. Yeah,
but I come down and stay in his house. And,
man, it's beautiful.
Yeah, the rent's pretty cheap here.
Not for anybody else, though.
Well, maybe not. Yeah, it's pretty expensive. That's why I don't come here very often. But
Joby wants to figure out a way to have more dog trainers come here.
Oh
So,
yeah, I mean it's
I'm gonna make a plan to come here and spend a
it's
few
a
days out here.
phenomenal place, man.
Man, but my point was, I looked at that setup today and I went, man, that's just got Winter's name written all over it.
Right.
But I was still like, man, she's gonna screw something. Like it's not that you fear the worst, you have no expectations anymore, right?
Yeah.
And she did a good job, but like I think about that,
great job.
and I think the thing is that every grand setup, you think kind of the same thing. Like I think we can do this, but what if we don't? And then you just go through all these emotional roller coasters.
Every single a grand champion will go out on the go bird of the first series. Guarantee you, man. Dogs are dogs.
Winter, when Clark ran her, she went out on the first bird.
Yeah.
But she didn't see the go bird, and Clark had her pick up the other two, and then she missed it and wouldn't handle for him. That's it. Yeah. Game over. It's that quick.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you're allowed one mistake, whether it's he onto the line a little loose or creeping out past the gun barrel, handling on a mark, margin of blind, you're allowed one mistake. And I think they do a really good job, holding that standard, I mean, it goes up and down. I mean, there was a period where they wasn't passing very many and they improved on that. And then there's a period where they passed quite a few and they improved on that. And, it's, you always want the grand title to mean something. And I think they're doing pretty good right now. I mean, I can sit here and off camera tell you my complaints on it and stuff because, but that's what makes it better. I mean, everybody, I know people on the Grand Committee, I talk to them and they'll listen to my opinion or maybe not, but at least they pretend like they do. But
I have so much respect for the Grand Committee. I think they can't make everything can't be perfect.
Right.
But they definitely are for the dog and they're for the standard.
Yeah.
And I think that they've done a really, really good job.
It's a great game. And I mean, we're, running 800 plus dogs. And I think
the fall grant was like almost 1,000.
Yeah, it was. It was close to it.
It was like 996 dogs or something. Yeah. But then, I mean, obviously you have scratches from.
Right.
But anyway, that's a big group to get through that.
Absolutely, man.
That's a feat, but
you're doing something right when it's like that.
I wanted to ask your opinion. Now, this might be, you can choose to answer it or not. I personally think that we're slightly doing a disservice to a lot of people who work their way to the grand on how we're judging and what our standard is for a normal weekend finish when it comes to line manners.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, to me, I've judged a lot. And I guess when it comes down to me to judging finished, I don't look at it. I don't consider the grand at all. To me, it's two completely different things. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying.
Keep going.
So to me, the bottom line is not necessarily, cast refusal. All right, I got him out. Is that a finished dog? Is that a dog I want to go hunting with?
Yeah.
Line manner is a big part of that. I don't want to hunt with a dog that is out of control and a pain in the butt. I don't want to go hunt with a vocal dog. And we're also judging and doing this to improve the breeding, So all those things kind of come as, but to me, it doesn't come down to really marks and blinds. It comes down to, is that a finished dog that I want to go hunt with? And if there's ever, we're talking about a dog, it's going to be, if I judge with Leroy, hey, would you go hunt with him? Pass, nothing really and again, I'm not saying this what you're saying, that I'm preparing him to run the grand or not. He's got to have to figure it out on his own, man.
That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. I think that there's a certain level of like safety that I think is missed a little bit with the rehealing, because like if you've shot and your dog is out in front of you,
right?
That's a safety.
That's got to be strict.
That's got to be strict, and I've seen that's maybe a little looser, and the reason that I say that is mostly because I don't think that people truly understand what the right standard is. Not necessarily a standard for finish or seasoned or even the grand, but a standard that you should try to uphold your dog to. Like we hear all the time as amateurs, you know, you need to have a high standard for your dog.
Right.
But what does that mean?
What does that mean? Right.
What does that mean? And so you go to a weekend finish test and you see something that isn't necessarily a high standard and they get that ribbon.
Right. I don't disagree. And I actually agree 100% on the creeping in the gun. I mean, those get shot. Those go to death when they're 5 years old. You know, we're shooting primers. We used to shoot poppers at these things all the time. Gosh. And, you know, I remember, not to get off the subject, I remember when we first started transitioning over to primers. Oh my goodness, man. A lot of people was no way will we ever use primers at our club. And
really?
Oh yeah, it was pretty brutal for a couple of years. And then all of a sudden, like everybody, well, they're cheaper, they're quieter. Okay.
Yeah. I wonder how soon we're gonna have to start using rubber chickens for.
I don't know.
I hope it doesn't happen because there is something different about.
I love my ducks, man.
Using ducks.
But yeah, I mean, guns, dog safety, they have to sit, you know, and we can't, or you got to stake them out. You're not allowed to stake them out when you run the finish test. So they got to stake or sit. So we have to judge that. And I think you're 100% right. I just would not word it like
you weren't compared to the grand.
Preparing them for the grand.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, I'm preparing them to go hunting with their dog.
That's a really good point. That's the levels.
Yeah.
And honestly, I sometimes forget that, but I more have meant it for a lot of people have the goal of running bigger stuff, and they think of it in stepping stones,
right?
And versus looking at the end goal,
right?
They're
exactly right there because. And you're talking about, you know, details or whatnot, it was you said, but that's the thing that I don't think the novice or you know, beginner trainer really understands, you know. And then they come there like, you know, man, he was just crazy today. And you're like, he never moves, you know, when we're training. And then you'll train with him the next week and, you know, and they'll move. It might be ever so slight, but to move, and they'll send him and it's like, what are you doing? What do you mean? It's like, he moved. Oh, he just did that. I was like, what did he do last week? And well, that's what that is.
Yeah.
He learned to move and you didn't do anything. They need to sit, you know, and not move. Some dogs are always going to move, but you do your best they can be, you know, and then you have to hold that standard. You have to have, the self-discipline that when they move on a mark, whether it's you training by yourself and your buddies out there, you know, using your own wingers or your buddies out there throwing, especially when you got your buddy throwing, when they move, they don't get it. You just walk out, pick it up, your buddy picks it up, re-throws it. You go to a club training day, you know, your club training day should not be anything to do with the marks. You know, it should be all about the atmosphere and your dog sitting. If you go there, you know, I ran 2 weeks ago to Hunt Test. My dog's line manners were terrible. So you go to a club training day, and I don't care what you throw for a mark. I'm going to hear him up to the line. When he moves, I'm going to deny him the bird. I'm going to walk back. And if I can have enough time to do it again, I mean, you know, there's 20 people to run. You only have so much time, but use your time the best. And it's going to be the best to be able to use that atmosphere to get the corrections you need to get. And I don't think people, they go to, especially you go to a club training day, you want to, you want to do the marks on that big blind and, you know, and then, you know, they set up something that little Fluffy's not really ready to do. Oh yeah, I think I can do that.
Yeah. The famous, let's try it.
Right. Yeah. Let's try it, man.
Let's try it.
I think you can do it. but then they move and they go, but that's the
I
bottom
definitely,
line right there.
I fell into that trap when I transitioned from.
We all did.
Well, we all do, and you just gotta. It's almost. We were doing another podcast, and I said you pretty much have to like screw it up for you to really have the discipline. Because man, there's no worse feeling probably than like actually failing the test, but to see your dog doing something that you just know like any second this could go south really fast.
Right.
And or the classic, the dog creeps out, is looking at a mark, and you swing over and they don't hear the winger, and you're aiming over here at the other side, and you shoot, and you're like, that ain't good.
That ain't good.
What am I gonna do here?
Yeah, I mean, everybody that, or most of the people that do this stuff are ate up with it, like you and I.
Yeah.
Or close to that. And when we go there, we want to do well. We want our dog to do well. I mean, Floppy's a badass dog, man. I want him. And then you go there and it doesn't go like you want, and you get frustrated with it. But control was probably the easiest way to get frustrated, because that's probably the most of us had the most problems with. But, but that all starts from when they're 7 weeks old.
Yep.
I hate and a lot of people disagree with this, but as soon as you find out the puppy likes to retrieve, he needs to start earning. He needs to start sitting.
Got to earn it.
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Earn it?
Yeah, earn it. Yeah.
Yep. I'm the same way.
We don't just throw fun bumpers.
As soon as they got momentum that I know they're going to go.
Yeah.
Start.
Yeah.
And Dan and I, we steady with treats first. We make them sit for their food. We make them sit for casts, like food bowl casting. We do all that first, because then it's just not a big deal. Like, I don't get the food if I move. Why would I get a bumper if I move?
Right. That's why Dan's dog sits so good, man.
Yeah.
I just wish they didn't sit on the right side so much.
He does both sides.
I know. I noticed that last grand.
Yeah. we started double-sided marking, so I know you only do the left, right?
Yeah, I'd be so out of place if I put him on the right side. I couldn't. I'd be lost, man.
I tried to have Clark run Winter at when he was for the Grand, and I was like, "Well, you got to put her on the right for the birds that go left to right." And he's like, "I'll try it." That lasted like 3 days.
Yeah,
he's like, "I can't do it."
Better luck teaching her than teaching him. That's like me.
So yeah, for those of you that are listening that don't know what we're even talking about, there's I won't even say it's two schools of thought, but one of the things that Lardy did, and it makes a lot of sense to me. That's why I do it, but I don't think like Durance does it. There's a few other people that do it, but a lot of trainers just one side their dog. And the reason that people two side their dog is that if a bird is thrown left to right, then you send the dog on the right, and if it's on left to or right to left, you send the dog from the left side. And a perfect example, which I don't know if this is, but this mark today that we ran in this SRS, this big middle bird, the gun was exposed. It was probably like 230.
Something
230.
like that.
It was thrown right to left onto a tip of a point. But there's a lot of hills, and it's an old golf course, so there's a bunch of mounds and former sand traps and stuff. And the way that the mark is, when they leave, they go down a hill, and they can't see where the gun is or where the mark is. They go down this little hill, and there's a hay bale that's kind of almost in line with the mark. Maybe it's slightly to the left towards the arc of the bird. And when I ran, there's an umbrella out there, and it was an exposed gun, but you really couldn't see the gun anymore. Like, they got in the shade. And Winter, I sent her from my left, and she was running kind of straight at the gun. Couldn't really see it. She was on the ditch. She went down in this ditch, and she came up. And as soon as she got closer and saw the gun, I saw her make this big left turn, and she hit the water, and she went. And maybe she just did that because she knew where the bird was. But could also be, and the point is that if your dog doesn't remember exactly where the mark is, it's another way to communicate with them that you're going to go to the left side of this gun. So whether or not it really makes that much of a difference, there's varying opinions. If your dog marked the bird, they'll go get the bird. But when you get like to this level, like we ran today, where it was a quad, there's a lot of birds out there. So any little cue you can do might help the dog.
I agree 100%. And I used to all the time, the Lardy videos was completely that, dog. And I think a lot of it is, a big part of it is, the white coats and throwing left to right or right to left, put them on the right side or left side.
Well, the gun's exposed versus the hunt test.
Exactly.
It ain't.
Right. But then I guess you could argue the origin of the throw or whatnot. Or even, a blind with water, one direction or the other. A lot of people, if it's like this, we want them to get in the water, we'll put them on the right side. If it's like this, we'll put them on the left side. And I did all that. And I buy in all that. I think that's the best way to do it, 100%. I did it for quite a while. Years. And I was so uncomfortable that I would make the dog on. To me, it just didn't work.
Yeah.
I'm pretty, right-handed and which evidently makes me better with them on the left side.
Yeah, I've never quite understood that. 'Cause I am so much more comfortable on the right.
All right.
Yeah, like today I was like, good, I get to put her on the right.
Yeah.
Go birds on the right.
Yeah.
It just makes everything easier for me. But I'm comfortable running from the left.
100%. And I might, if I ever decide that I want to, get serious about, running trials or stuff like that and get a new puppy, I might try it again. And the dogs I get in for training, I'll spend when we're doing beatings, putting them on the right side, heel on the right side for a brief. So it's not like completely
foreign to them.
Yeah, because it can be. I remember judging one time at Hoosier, and I had a guy apprentice under me, and he kind of set it up, and with my guy, I had no problem with what he set up, but the dog had to be on the right side, and the dog could sit on top of a stump. It's perfect, man. Just a nice little spot for it. But the handler, really, there was no room for him to get on the other side, so the dog's on the left. Oh my goodness, man. There were so many dogs that would not do that, and because they just wasn't used to it.
Yeah.
They'd never been on that side. It's weird.
You're bringing up a really good point that I didn't realize that you could run off a dog stand, you could run remote at a finish test. That was something that I went to my test and I was like, I got to do what?
What?
I got to do what? And after that, and after that, I started practicing that. So for those of you that are listening, if you're getting ready to run finished, or I don't think I've done it in season, but it maybe
there was a period where they really got a kick out of putting them in handlers and layout blinds.
Oh my God.
We kind of got away from that, but there's between people's disabilities and elderly, you can't really do silly stuff, but if there's an opportunity that's something safe, you can get people in and out and do something that's a little bit more different and interesting and more hunt savvy.
Yeah. I like when we do, like, you're standing in a marsh.
Yeah.
And then you got to put the dog on
a stand.
I enjoy that because there's a lot, like, there ain't no creeping then.
Right.
It's either you're breaking
right. It's all or nothing.
Yeah.
I remember we had a dog, it's actually would be Winter's great grandmother, Fly.
Yeah.
Last test she ever ran. And she was a grand champion, qualified always, master hunter. Last test she ever ran, I can't remember why we was even running her, man. Maybe for the fun of it. She broke, I think, on the second mark. She didn't even wake for all three of them. And she was on a dog stand out in the middle of a marsh. It was just a cool test, man. I was happy to be out there with Mama Fly, and boom, boom. No here. No here. No here. All right.
It's over.
Mama Fly's done.
Yeah, that's funny. So that's a pretty. I mean, I've seen her in the Pedigree. What was she like?
Fly. Blue Goose is time to fly. So I got the opportunity to run her in the Grand and got her second Grand Pass. It was down in Georgia, and then Jim was still working his regular job and stuff. So I kind of would keep running Fly. She'd have been phenomenal at this game, SRS. I ran her in a couple. Both of them, she was really pregnant. She just never showed up when I ran her at the SRSs.
You did run her inside.
I did. I ran her in 2, I believe. But anyways, that dog taught me more on what a dog can be trained to do than I learned so much from her. She would run so straight, and I just didn't know dogs were capable of learning to do that. And the guy reached out to me one time years later. I don't remember who it was, but the guy that trained her and that sold her, I have no idea why he sold her, whatnot. Some people say she was a field trial washout. Bullshit. There's no way. But she run so straight. I remember I was training with Rick Jackson one time down at his place, and there was this island out in this pond, and sorry, Rick, but it wasn't a mark that I would have set up. He set it up, and it was like on the other side of this island. I mean, there were like trees and brush and briars and stuff on it. And I hadn't had it very long. Mark goes over there, and all the dogs would go out there, get to the island, run around on, pick up the mark, run back around the island. And Fly gets up there, and runs right through all that crap on that island. And I'm like, yeah, Rick's like, man, that's amazing. I said, by God, she better run back through it on her way back. Sure enough, she comes back through it with the bird. And that's just how she was trained. And she was dog enough to do it, and she'd run, like Sam Malish always said, man, I seen her one time, which I don't know if I believe this. He said, I seen her one time run right into like a tree and get back up and run into it again. I don't believe that, but that's how she was, and that's how people remember. And
was she the Snow White?
She was really pretty white, yeah.
Yeah, and Clark was telling me that I had to talk to you about this, Doug. He was like, that was the OG.
Oh, I'm telling you. She's probably the most, what's the word I'm on? So much fun to run. I got more judges, when we'd run her on a blind, when I would blow the first sit whistle, they'd be like, geez, when you blew the whistle, I never ever, I don't care how fast dogs sit on the whistle out here, Mama Fly beat them. Tweet, throw up dirt. She sat so fast and just would skid to a stop. And that was training, I think. I mean, they had to have the dog couldn't do it, but that guy, whoever he was, did phenomenal. And and once I got her, she steadily went downhill to my level. I was not a good enough trainer to keep her where she was at.
I think that's actually a lot about, that talks a lot about what we just did, about how when you don't know a standard, when you don't know what a dog is capable of, you never try to push to that level.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, I went to my first cue, and I still think it's the hardest cue I've ever seen. But I wasn't running. Tyler was running.
Right.
And we walked up, and the land setup was okay.
Right.
She did good. The land blind, she slapped it, looked good, and I was like, maybe we can play this game.
Right.
I was like, I was watching. It was Tyler's dog. I was like, this Widow's doing pretty stinking good. And then we got to the water blind, and we walked up on this hill at Horicon, and I was like, and actually the judge is a good friend of mine now, Jeremy. You were on top of it. It was like a 300-yard water blind, but the entry was like 70 yards, and then you got in the water, and it was. Have you ever been to Horicons? Like,
no, I never have.
Man, it's like, I can't even. It's amazing. You're elevated above where the water is, probably 70 to 80 feet.
Right.
And it's
big bowl.
Big bowl. And there's a bunch of points and stuff, but like the pond is probably 150 yards, 175 yards across, and there's only like a couple points, but they're huge.
Right.
So the dog looks out there, they're like,
points.
Holy cow, I got to go all the way across that thing. So I saw a bunch of dogs. I saw a dog like 2 whistle it, and I was like, holy cow. Like now I get it. Actually, because of how big it is, it's pretty black and white to the dogs,
right.
And they're coming
it's training.
It's totally trained. Like the dog did a very trained response. It wasn't like it was just big. That's all it was. Right. It was just really big. And then they did the water triple from like, I don't know, maybe 100 yards down the berm. Like, I was like, no dog can ever do this. And I watched dog after dog front foot it. And now I'm like looking at what we just ran with those 2 retired guns, and we're having, I mean, how many dogs got like under 20?
I know.
Like, it's crazy. I'm like, how can dogs possibly do this work?
It's pretty amazing what dogs do and what you're capable of end up doing when you start working towards it. The first of my experience with the cues is the same years. We kind of glide through the first couple, and then you get the water blind, then you get the water marks. And I didn't. The first cue I ever finished was this past spring. I only ran 4, I think, prior to that, but and they was like 10 or so years ago. But I get the water marks and just couldn't do it. I mean, my dog just had no idea, man.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where it starts to separate. If you don't have grounds,
right,
like you can't do it. Like there's just another level of training, like where you actually need field trial grounds to be successful in the field trial game. You can't do like what I did when I was running Hunt Test, which was, find a rectangle pond with one feature and make it work. Like it's just another level of environment that you have to have. Or
grounds, people, the knowledge to train it like that. We have the knowledge to do what we do, and I think them field trial pros couldn't do that. They have the knowledge to do what they do, and we can't do that. I think obviously, I'm not saying that we're as good trainers or maybe, I don't know. It's just different, man. But when you get to the open and the big dogs and field trials, those dogs are special, and those trainers are special. I mean, they know, they've been doing it a long time. It's just a whole different.
Yeah. Well, we've been going for just about an hour. You got any last fine words for
I just
all the young people?
really appreciate inviting me on your show, and I've heard good things about it, so excited to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you're like one of my heroes. I'm serious. Like when, like I asked about the breeding to Dan, and he's like, Steve Earick and Jeremy's dogs. I was like, yeah. He's like, well, I want one too. And he's like, Steve is a good trainer. Yeah. Like, I'll never forget. He's like, he is a good trainer. And Dan, Dan doesn't talk bad about anybody, but he doesn't say much about anybody else. So when he said that you were a good trainer, I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure I remember that.
Must be right, because I respect Dan more than about as much as I do anybody. He's awesome, has a great, great reputation for a reason.
Yeah.
I've Dan for a long time.
One of the things I did want to ask, I don't even know if it's asking, it's just, like, you have, like, in football, you talk about, like, the Andy Reid tree, you talk about the Bill Belichick's failure of a tree, maybe. I don't know. Like, I don't think has he had anybody that's really done well out of his coaching tree?
Out of who?
Bill Belichick?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know football.
Okay, man. Well, anyway.
I quit having time to watch football a long time ago.
Well, you better not tell those Southern boys there that they're all about college football.
Oh, I know. I love it, but I don't know. It comes to the fall.
Yeah. You'd rather be shooting
Jane's
ducks.
got me busy, or I'm out hunting or something.
Well, so the whole setup was, you got Jeremy, you got Eric. Like, how many people have you kind of like brought along that have had a lot of success?
I don't know. And
because that's one of the things I most respect about you is how good the folks that you've kind of helped are.
There's some good guys. I don't know that. I think I've helped them out. They've helped me out. We kind of learn from each other and stuff. And I really appreciate. I think the best thing about the dog world is the friends and the people you meet. I mean, we all have the common thread of the dogs, but I have no idea what Jane and I would be doing now if we wouldn't have bought Bear back in in the 90s. I really pissing around playing golf and throwing horseshoes on Friday night, probably.
Yeah.
Bowling.
This is a little better, right?
Boy, that would suck.
Well, thanks again for being on the show. It was a great time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.